Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. We're going to take just another minute or two to let people join in. And while we're waiting, if you'd like to put your name in the chat and where you're joining us from, we'd love to hear from you. So again, just taking another minute, let us know who you are and where you're joining from. Not seeing any messages come in. Don't be shy. Oh, here we go. Okay. Eric from San Jose, Janet from San Jose. Great. More San Jose. Thanks, Jade, for joining. Santa Rosa, Nancy. Thanks. Thanks for representing the North Bay. So thank you all. As people are coming in, I'm just going to give this intro. So first, you might have noticed that this webinar is actually being translated into 4 different languages. So at this time, please select your language and also click mute original audio if you are going into a breakout room that is not English. You can go ahead and do this now. Again, select your language, and if you're going to a breakout room that is not English, go ahead and click mute original audio. Okay. So who are we? Who's Daily Axe? For those who are unfamiliar with our organization, Daily Axe is an environmental education nonprofit based out of Petaluma, California. We work mainly through Sonoma County, but are partnering beyond. We strive to make connected, equitable, climate resilient communities by giving people the tools and knowledge to make a positive impact on their environment while still maintaining a full lifestyle. We at Daily Axe believe in the power of daily actions, hence the name of our organization. We strive to connect the community and inspire positive change. We do this by educational programs such as this one, action campaigns, mobilizations, and influencing local policy. This program is in a Zoom webinar format, so if you have any questions during this presentation, please put them in the Q&A and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. Feel free to use the chat to share resources or communicate with the entire audience. Again, questions in the Q&A to make sure we don't miss them. The chat is for sharing resources. With all those logistics out of the way, let's get started. I am first, before Elizabeth starts her presentation, I'm going to pass the mic over to Nicholas from Valley Water to talk about water rebates that are available to Santa Clara residents.
Thanks, Ava. I'm having a little bit of difficulty sharing my screen to talk about those rebates, if you don't mind giving me permissions.
Sure thing. I do have some up right now as well.
Oh, you have them up right now. Okay, perfect. All right. My apologies. I wasn't able to see that. Appreciate everyone coming out today. My name's Nicholas. I'm a water conservation specialist here at Valley Water, and we are really excited to offer this program in partnership with Daily Axe. So a little bit of background on who Valley Water is. We're a special district water agency that provides 3 core services to nearly 2 million people here who live and work throughout Santa Clara County. Those 3 main services and goals of our agency are to provide clean, reliable water, flood protection, and healthy creeks and ecosystems throughout Santa Clara County. We are the water wholesaler, and we partner with over 15 cities and 13 water retailers to provide clean and reliable water to everyone here in Santa Clara County. Water conservation is essential for ensuring a clean and reliable water source for today and into the future. I just want to reiterate that we really appreciate you all attending and thank you for being here. We're really excited that you're all joining us to learn how you can improve your water efficiency and reduce your water on your landscapes through rainwater capture. If we go to the next slide. We offer some rebates to help support some of these efforts. We have rebates all the way from how to remove your lawn down to, again, why we're here, rainwater capture. So you could get up to $35 per rain barrel for installing one. You can get up to 50 cents per gallon on a cistern, which is just a larger rain barrel, 200 gallons or larger. And then also, again, we're going to learn more about all these really great ways to improve your water efficiency with rain gardens as well, and bioswale. So with a rain garden, you get $1 per square foot up to 300 square feet of roof line that's being drained into that rain garden. So each site for a single family could get up to $3,000 in combination for these rebates. So it's really a great incentive to take advantage of, and again, improve your water efficiency on your landscape. And if you happen to have a commercial site, or you're a business owner, or work for a business who may benefit or be interested in participating in some of these programs, they can actually get up to $100,000 back for making some of these changes and upgrades. So please share, pass it along, and we're more than happy to answer any other questions you have about our rebate programs or any other programs we offer here at Valley Water. And with that, I'll stop, and I'll pass it along to Elizabeth, the professional. Thank you.
Let's see. Hold on. Oops. Sorry. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Valley Water and Daily Acts, for inviting me to share my relationship with the rain and my experience with rain harvesting. My name is Elizabeth Sarmiento, and I'm going to start with a short story about how that journey started for me. Okay, next slide. So yeah, growing up in Honduras, Central America, in nature, one of the very first things that I used to do with my family was to go and fetch water from the local springs in buckets or in these big clay pots that we used to make. And for cooking and cleaning, we harvest water. The water that we fetch from springs was mainly for drinking, and it tasted really good and fresh. And but again, for cleaning and cooking, we harvest rain from our roofs. And there were no irrigation systems, so our farming, all our foods like vegetables, corn, beans, were depending on the rain. And my family, they were coffee growers, and within the fields and the mountains of coffee, mangoes and avocados, all those fruits that my father used to sell, export, or life depended on that, and it was all depending on rainfall. And whenever there wasn't rain, there were some occasions where the crops like beans and all these watermelons and corn would be planted, and we didn't have rain. So we all got to the fields outside, and everybody in the community prayed for rain. And I remember that rain was also something that it was fun. It was celebrated. Kids will just play outside in the rain, and the tropical type of climate, you could be outside in the rain and with the sun, and it would just be so much fun. Fast forward, and due to the ravage of violence in Honduras in the 80s, and to this day, I immigrated to the US, and I ended up in Los Angeles, LA. And I noticed living in LA that that relationship with the rain was very different. Rain was something that folks would send away from their homes, away from their yards, away from and into the streets. And I remember the LA River was a river that was full of toxins and plastic bags. You cannot really see the water. And that was very different. And it was kind of sad to witness that. And on the other hand, lawns and the type of landscapes that people had and have, many people still do, of course, were irrigated with sprinkler systems. So, and there was no life. Unlike the type of landscapings and gardens that I, grew up with as a child into my teens, it was very different. A lot of diversity of life and foods and fruits. You could have mangoes, all kinds of fruits and flowers in the front and backyards instead of lawns. There were no irrigation systems. Of course, we didn't have potable water either. So a lot of time was spent in my childhood as and still to this day, many people around the world spend time around getting water, drinking water and harvesting and that sort of thing. Fast forward, and many years later, I had the opportunity to get to college. Of course, I had to work my way to it. And couple of decades later, I ended up and went to San Jose State University, and I chose to study the environment. And one of my very first classes in my environmental department was water in the West, water policy in the West of the US. And I started learning a lot about the history of water resources, the incredible challenges, the fact that California is a semi-arid state, and the ongoing challenges and the issues with climate change and how these challenges were just going to be greater in the future. And this was back in 2008 when I graduated, and in 2006, 2007, I was studying this. And I remember thinking that I was going to go back and really continue this relationship with rain and this incredible respect for water. And so I chose to focus on water issues and the many opportunities that I learned about to take care of this resource. So I was very fortunate to work briefly at Valley Water and learned even more and share this education and engage many people into conservation. And I also work with other organizations, environmental organizations around resource conservation and education. And in my personal life, I made a commitment that I was going to harvest the rain in my own space and create lush and beautiful gardens and share this and with community. Fast forward, and in 2015, I was fortunate to have a lot of support from many friends and community leaders and elected officials to launch a Smart Yards Co-op. And we're based in San Jose, and the goal was to design and install and nurture these type of gardens that are rich and water wise and rich in terms of habitat, and to maintain these gardens. So it was I was fortunate to work with an organization that is very dear and near to me, which is a human rights type of organization that does a lot of this type of work also in terms of the environment, Human Agenda, also based here in San Jose. And with their support, we, like I said, launched Smart Yards, and we've been working ever since. And we are licensed landscape contractor, certified permaculture designer, gray water installer, and bay-friendly landscape. And I wanted to say about permaculture, the basic ethics, the three ethics of permaculture is planet care, people care, fair share. And that was really appealing. And when I learned about all the different principles of permaculture, we decided that we were going to focus our work around permaculture design principles. Let's talk about rain harvesting and how that's done. So let's see. So rain harvesting, or also storm rain management, is the practice of planting or infiltrating, storing, and utilizing on-site water, basically getting that water from the roofs and getting it into the landscapes or into cisterns or barrels. In 2012, AB 1750, the Rain Capture Act was signed into law by Governor Brown. And what this means is that this law basically says that we are encouraged, Californians, all of us, to harvest the rain, to capture rainfall, and to use it, to utilize it in our landscapes, to store it, and so basically to getting it into the landscapes in so many different ways, which we're going to be talking about, but basically to reduce the reliance on potable water for landscape needs. There are some important principles to consider when with rain harvesting, and here are some. And to observe flow and direction, basically making sure that the flow from, let's say, the roofs goes out into farther from the structures of your home, but to kind of do an observation. And it is it's the very first principle of permaculture: observe the land and all these stuff. But in terms of rainfall, to observe flows and directions, to start simple from the high to lower points, slow it, spread it, sink it, or infiltrate it, infiltrating that flow. It's slowing it, spreading it, sinking. Just if you could just remember that, it's so key when it comes to rain harvesting. And plan, welcome, and manage overflow, and as a resource, working with nature, working with the rain, not against it, working with the rain, welcoming it, embracing living in organic ground covers, organic matter, like leaves, making sure that it's in the ground, so you can create, you can feed the soil, and it can create that sponge for water to infiltrate. And efficiency and beneficial relationships of stacking functions basically is to work with the rain in different ways, different methods, different ways of working with the rain, spreading it, using it in the landscape, harvesting, and all these other functions, and reassess systems, ongoing observation and management. It's important to keep an eye on, the rain and how it's flowing and how it's spreading, and constantly maintain that and develop that relationship, and enjoy that richness and that juicy beauty of the rain, how the rain creates. And it's just like it's just super rich and lively. And the benefits are so many, and you can find a lot of resources out there in terms of the benefits of rain harvesting. And also there are some great books like Rain Harvesting for Dry Lands by Brad Lancaster's great resource. But one of them is that you save money by reducing your water bills, improve soil fertility, keep a storm runoff pollution, basically prevents runoff pollution from going into the streams, our local streams, and at the end into the ocean. And basically, kind of impacting the aquatic life. And it saves energy. Also, a lot of 20% of our energy goes towards moving water around in the state of California, and also pumping it or treating it. I think Valley Water has a good study that they did. It was basically says it's called about, I'm not sure Nick can tell you more about it, but it's about the water and energy nexus. I think that they have that study that was done a few years ago, and you can get learn more about that through that. And also it helps replenish our groundwater, and that is so amazing, because a lot of us, when we have droughts, we depend on pumping water from our groundwater, and we want to keep replenishing it. And rainwater is pretty clean. And then in case of an emergency, you can clean it, and for cooking and other uses like that, like we did as a child. And you could also even share with your neighbors. But it's mainly used for landscaping needs. And there are two methods of rain harvesting. One, the passive one. The passive method is the utilization of the rain through earthworks or vegetation. And again, to slow it, spread it, sinking it into the ground. And you can do it through these berms and swales, and like feed the soil and create that living sponge. And the cool thing about this method is that it's low cost, nature inspired, and low tech. So and these rain gardens are so fun to create. The second method is active water harvesting, which is through the utilization of tanks, storing it into these tanks and these cisterns, and capturing the water when there's plenty of rain. So later on, one can use it to water the, to water the vegetable garden, for instance, or washing the car or something like that. And if you have space, these systems are great if you can. And also, it's great to have rain tanks if there is space for them. And again, passive water harvesting, the method of slowing, spreading it, sinking it, or infiltrating into the ground. Again, it's a low cost, low tech solution. And it's important to design it to make sure that one takes away the water from the foundation of your home, and sending it out to the different areas of either backyard and front yard. And here is an example of a project that we were working on, and it was raining that day, and So I took some photos, I made some videos, and there was all this water gushing down the street. Of course, the ground was pretty tough, pretty hard, so it's just gushing, a lot of water. And it was interesting to see, and it was also like great opportunity for us to actually see the difference we were making right away, through this whole rain garden. And so all this water, and there were some calculations made in terms of how much water, how much roof area this downspout was connected to, and how much water was going to save if we left it in the ground and created a rain garden through this method of slow it, spread it, sink it. So here we are during this the kind of very wet soil, and we tough it out. And this was an educational program that we were involved with. And that same day there was also hail. So, but we were like enjoying it and embracing it, and like, okay, here's this opportunity, why not, let's do it. So we connected this downspout, built this trench, got this perforated type of tubing, a piece of perforating tubing, of solid tubing, so we could get the water away from the foundation, and then connect it to a perforated one and connect the water, and got this trench built, and cover that tubing with a piece of cloth, that we buy already, these rolls of cloth, and then filled it up with mulch, wood chips, that and directed the water into the middle of this space, this yard, after the lawn was converted also, and built these bioswales, and got it. It's about like 600 square feet area of lawn that we converted to plant all these plants and get this rain there, and this rain garden built. So here is the end result. This was about a month later that we went to check it out. So we got, again, the downspout, it's connected, comes down under this path, this paver path, and goes underneath. And in the middle is this basin. You'll see another slide, another image later. And around that is all these California native plants, and it's really lovely. Here's these bioswales, and again, these systems are these like giant sponge, with storing the water and being utilized by the plants. These plants were smaller when we first planted them, and it's like, blooming and lovely, and again, now the water, it's staying in the ground. And here's a photo of us actually starting to celebrate the end. We're not completely done yet, but of course some of us are just, yeah, we did it. And that's kind of where the water is going into, where this amazing person, celebrating there is, that's Rachel, and that's where the water is going into, basically into these mulch basins, and around is these all these plants. And here's another example of a project that was being installed with a rain, the two downspouts connected into the middle of this front landscape. And one is on the side behind this wall, which is a dry laid stone wall. There's no mortar, no cement. Again, it provides that kind of ecosystem. And then there's a permeable type of patio with stone that water kind of permeates. There's no cement, just a little bit of gravel. in this case, we were still working on it, but 2 downspouts going into this front yard. And also there is a gray water system that is parallel to it to water a bunch of fruit trees that we planted, like blueberries and lemon and mandarins. This garden is looking really great now. It was done back in when it was raining. Here are examples of some gardens already done. In this case, we have a dry creek with some stone and a lot of native plants, and then one without the creek. But one doesn't need to go to the super bloom to enjoy these beautiful gardens in our yards that are basically nurtured with rainfall. And it's so important to keep in mind diversity of these relationships. Again, I mentioned that parallel to that, we do like rain harvesting into tanks, through these rain gardens, and also to, laundry water can be sent to these gardens. So to water a bunch of plants that are not necessarily native, but more like, plants that have fruit trees, like for fruit to grow. And you don't need to rely so much on potable water. You could use some of your laundry. You already pay for that water. Why not sending it to your landscape and reusing that laundry water? And by the way, Valley Water also has a rebate for that. So again, this is a sketch of and an example of a rain garden parallel with a gray water system, land-return landscape. And you can see this image right here. It's a lush garden with that basically relies on a lot of rainwater. If you have an opportunity, for instance, your driveway is broken or like cement and you want to replace it, I think permeable driveways are really another way to, to use water wisely, to reuse that rainwater, to slow it, spread it, sink it, to sink it into the ground and recharge our groundwater. So this driveway is connected to 3 downspouts and divert all these trenches or swales are going into like the front garden, the back, into different kinds of fruit trees and stuff like that. So when it's like this incredible living sponge and rich, you're like feeding the soil, and you're also creating habitat below ground and above ground. In this case, these trenches and these driveway are filled with gravel instead of mulch because it's a driveway. So there are other products out there that have been developed, like permeable type of pavers. This paver that we did a few years ago, it's basically the water permeates into it, instead of running down the street. And it's pretty cool. And it comes in different colors. That's the great color charcoal type of paver. And then, this permeable cement, which is basically a cement that is very porous. And it can be done in different colors. So that's another way to harvest the rainfall and keeping it, slowing it, spreading it, sink it, keeping it into the ground. And now let me talk about active water harvesting. So that's through the rain capture, like capturing water and storing it into tanks. And again, this is these couple of photographs are from a family that soon after we installed these barrels, the barrels were filled up, and they were so happy because they could see, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're full. Yes, they're full. So we're playing around, and they were like testing the hose and seeing if it was like, water coming out of the barrels. So that's the tanks, harvesting rain into tanks. And again, it requires having the space, and it's a little bit of more a high-tech type of activity. And the common components of rain tanks, of course, is the tank itself. You need a roof area, coarse mesh, gutters to slope into the roof, like the first flush device, filters that remove those pollutants, from that are, could be stored or, in the roof. A foundation, an overflow type of spigot, overflow pipe, so you can connect it to other tanks or to the landscape. You can have those an overflow, the tank has an overflow piece, and so that piece gets connected through other, like, kind of so it goes to the garden. And you need a spigot to install into the tank, and a hose, so you can use that water to water your vegetable gardens and stuff like that. I have a couple of those tanks, and they're full right now, and it's pretty cool to know that there's that water there whenever I want to use it for the vegetable garden. And by the way, I want to mention that there are a lot of resources out there online that you can look up for, and also books again and these tanks, usually they come with a box with a kit with all these components, all these pieces. And here's one of the tanks being installed a few years ago, and of course it's very lush out there now because I use the rain harvest the rain in so many other ways. And rainfall or rain harvesting is something that has been utilized all over the world for eons of time. I mean, people have been harvesting water forever, and whether you use these, buckets, barrels, anything. I even use a bunch of 5-gallon buckets, and I put them all over, and they fill up, and I can use it to, for instance, to clean the mop and clean the floors and stuff like that, or for cleaning after the rain and there's debris or soil or all that stuff, and I can clean it, or for cleaning the chicken coop. You name it, I just harvest it. But yeah, people have been harvesting rainfall for a long time all over the world. And one thing is to keep in mind is that it's so important to keep these things covered if you're going to keep rainwater, for a longer time, just covering this and until you're able to use it. But it's good to utilize it if it's not covered, because it will attract mosquitoes. And yeah, there's a lot of ways of calculating rain harvesting out there. There's all kinds of calculators, but this is an example, for instance, on calculation of how much water you can save and the roof area that you have. If you have a roof area, for example, of 1,000 square feet, and 1 inch of rainfall, you can save about 623 gallons of water. Whether you capture it in tanks or send it to the garden through a rain garden. And in Santa Clara County, our average rainfall per year is 14 inches. And in fact, when there was at least a couple of years ago, the year before this year, it was about only like 6 inches of rainfall, something like that. It was very low. But That's the average rainfall that we have had in Santa Clara County. And so if you have a roof area of 1,000 square feet, you can save about almost 9,000 gallons of water. And so that is a huge difference. And if you have the space to have rain tanks, you know, if you also, it's a more costly kind of system, but it's great to be able to harvest the rain through, you know, there's a lot of savings. And there are so many resources and opportunities to inspire action. And of course, Valley Water is one of them. You know, they're doing such a great job to working with organizations like Daily Acts, with so many others like Smart Arts Education, with us, with community, incentivizing people through rebates to, you know, removing that piece of grass that, you know, you can have a beautiful garden instead of that, investing in that. So people are, Valley Water is investing in community through the rebate programs, education. So thank you, Valley Water. And Daily Acts, wow, you're amazing. Thank you so much for all you're doing in Sonoma County, and also coming to this area, the South Bay, to working with us. And Gray Water Action, another great organization. You know, I also have some information about rain harvesting, but gray water training, how to use gray water, and, you know, shower water and laundry water, and like hands-on training. It's a great organization. That's where I got my certification for a few years ago, back in 2014. And last but not least, Smart Arts Education. We're local and we're doing hands-on education around all these different activities of rain harvesting, rain gardens, gray water systems, land neutral landscape, teaching people hands-on this education and building community. And I am just so proud of this organization that I'm part of. And there's a bunch of super dedicated members, board members. So please check it out. If you're interested, we have one more workshop, May 27th and 28th, that you can still sign up for. If you can go to smartartseducation.org. It's going to be hands-on, and we are going to convert, and we're going to do a rain garden and convert a piece of grass into an ecological garden, permaculture, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun to be part of it. And thank you so very much for creating a more just and water-wise future for all. Thank you so much out there for your interest, for taking time to learning, to being here, to seeing how else can you make a difference. You know, you can always contact me through our website at smartartscoop.com, and stay tuned. We it's really fun to face these challenges and see the opportunities out there, and learn and take action. So that ends my presentation. I'm going to pass it on to Ava for questions and sharing more. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that amazing presentation. Sorry, the sun has been setting, so sorry about the shadows on my face. But we're going to dive into some Q&A. So one's a little bit of narrative that I'm going to read off to you, and if you have any insight, that would be great. So this question says, I'm interested in information on how to clear some algae growth in my tanks. The tanks are fed by downspouts from the roof installed 10 years ago. Also, types of pumps to give more pressure to water when it is used for the garden. Thank you.
Okay.
So it's really about how to clear algae growth in my tanks.
Mm-hmm. So this is a very good question. I haven't had that experience, but I would say that because I haven't had to deal with that experience, I don't have a straight answer. But my guess is that when the tank is empty, it would be good to flush it, to clean it, and like double check the top of the tank to make sure that it has that filter, because if it has a good filtration system, it won't have that problem in terms of the algae. But I would say that as soon as the tank is empty, to be able to like clean it up inside. Maybe, you can use a little bit of vinegar to clean it, to remove the algae. But I would say that it would be important to look into the filtration system, because it's the tank, if you didn't install a filter system, maybe that's kind of what's happening, that some of that debris from the roof is going down into the tank during the rain season. So, and that's those are some of my guesses. And based on I haven't had that experience with the tanks that we install.
Great, thanks for that answer. I'll kind of add to that. You're much more knowledgeable than I am, but I have installed only one tank, and some of them, it was out of an old IBC tote, and it did have a little algae in it, but it wasn't too much of a concern, as long as if most tanks are non-potable and you're not allowed to use for any potable reasons, and it has to be used near a landscape. So if it's just going to your garden, the algae is not going to hurt it too much, unless it's becoming a problem where it's really clogging it, then you're going to want to clean it out. But if it's just more of the look itself, or if you're skeptical of how it'll act on your plants, it's really not bad for your plants. Just make sure it doesn't clog, and as Elizabeth said, maybe a filter up top. There's something called a like a leaf filter.
Yeah.
And so another question we have is, do you prefer mulch in the rain garden or gravel and rocks?
Oh, yeah, we do it both ways. A little bit of gravel, it's okay. Depending, I think mulch basically is just kind of, if the soil is heavy clay, we prefer to use mulch if it's going to be a rain garden, for instance. And if you have if you're planning on planting plants in the future, but basically you end up with a basin, a big kind of a dam, a hole, and you fill it up. But if it's like, and it's okay, we do it. We do both ways, depending on what we're doing with that area. If it's a small area and we're planting like fruit trees and more plants, then we just use mulch. But if it's a dry creek, for instance, like with like a stone, then we do gravel underneath. Yeah, and then put the stone, like the river stone and other boulders, to create that natural look, and even a little bit gravel to create that look that is like, okay, the fish is going to come, or that sort of thing. But yeah, for dry creeks, we tend to do gravel underneath, cover that trench with gravel. But if it's going to be planting, for planting, we do mulch. And like I said, it depends on what you're doing with that.
Great. Thanks for your presentation. I think those are all the questions we have at the moment. So I'm going to hand this over to Nick to share his screen and give a little bit more information on the rebates that are available in Santa Clara.
All right. Can you all see my screen okay, or is the display not showing correctly?
Looks good on our end.
Great. So Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This has been really exciting to have everyone on the call. Even I learned something from Elizabeth here on rainwater capture. And so I just want to, give us some action that we can follow up on, and just review our landscape rebate program and the total process that we go through with this program, and what you can kind of expect on your end. There's a lot of different elements to our landscape rebate program. And so I'm gonna run through pretty much all of them here for everyone, so we can utilize this great resource. So it's for any site in Santa Clara County. It could be residential, commercial, institutional, industrial, incorporated or unincorporated. And a large element of this program would be our lawn conversion or our landscape conversion element. And so you can actually get $2 a square foot up to 1,500 square feet to replace that high water use landscape with a drought tolerant landscape per our requirements. And I'm going to go through those requirements as well. We also have some areas that potentially, if you're living in these areas in the county or paying your water bill to these specific retailers, they've joined us to continue this goal to conserve water and make water conservation a California way of life here. And so you see a list here. We're going to send out our overview and rates page to everyone, so you could actually see what rate you might be eligible for, to see if you can maybe get a little bit of extra funds to help you out with your project. So again, we have a lot of different elements. For the landscape conversion, we're looking for high water use landscapes defined, such as a lawn or an actively filled pool. So again, if you're a business owner, if you are maybe a landscape manager for a business, and you'd like to participate in this program for your business, you totally can. We just would need that the person who's receiving the check for the rebate program would have to be a property owner, authorized site representative, such as a property management company or a living trust. And again, we need to have the pool or lawn existing and filled if it's a pool. You can see some examples here of some different lawn conditions. So I mean, even this bottom left, it looks like it, maybe we shut the irrigation system off in the summer and haven't maintained it very well. If it's still in that dead patchy-ish condition, as long as it's still intact, hasn't been physically scraped, removed, sprayed, mulched over, the project hasn't been started, then likely we can still qualify this condition of landscape. So again, I mentioned we need to be applying for the rebates and getting approval before we can start on any work or make any qualifying purchases for this program. And so again, retroactively, or we cannot retroactively rebate projects that have been completed already. I'm going to be sharing a lot of links in this presentation. I don't want anyone to stress over pressing them. We're going to be sending a follow-up email after this for all the participants here on the call. And so you'll be getting all these links and the descriptions for what they go to. So you can access all those tools. So again, first step to getting into the program would be to apply, create a username and account password. And then when you're in that application process, you're going to be uploading, your information, the site information, site address, where the project's taking place, if that's different from where you live or your primary residence. We'd ask for a current copy of the water bill with the account number, the water retailer, and the service address visible. And then photos of the lawn or pool, so we can see the entirety of that project. You can input a rough estimate of the square footage, just so that we can allot an ample amount of time to do a pre-inspection. And then once we have all this information, we're going to send your contact information to our third-party consultant, Waterwise Consulting, and they're going to reach out to you by email and or phone to set up an on-site free inspection to measure out that lawn. Just a reminder, the rebate is based on square footage, so that's why we're going to go ahead and measure it before the project's been started, so we can verify that accurately. Once you've had your pre-inspection and that's been completed, we're then going to get into the second part of the application. And so we have three main requirements for this lawn conversion rebate. And so we're going to ask that 50% plant coverage requirement is met. So that would mean if you got 1,000 square foot lawn, that you're putting in 500 square feet of drought tolerant plants from Valley Water's approved list. That approved list will also be getting sent out to everyone. We ask that all bare soil is being covered with a minimum of 2, recommended 3 inches of mulch, river rocks, gravel, decomposed granite. Those are just some of the qualifying ground cover materials you could use. We'd recommend the mulch for sure. And then efficient irrigation is being implemented on there. So that could mean implementing a drip system of your choice for no additional rebate within this lawn area, or it could also mean you're capping off the overhead irrigation that's there, and you're going to hand water these drought tolerant plants until they're established. I mentioned earlier that there's a 50% plant coverage requirement with drought tolerant plants from Valley Water's approved list of plants. That might sound like a little bit of an intimidating number, but I just wanted to point everyone's attention to this screenshot that we have on the screen. So if this participant is removing 1,158 square feet of lawn, that means that their 50% requirement of minimum 50% requirement would be 579 square feet of drought tolerant plants. This participant implemented 623 square feet. They've exceeded the minimum, and so that's totally compliant with the program. Another thing to think about is that we are taking into account coverage at full maturity. So, for example, this Vine Hill Manzanita may come in a 5-gallon planter, but when it's fully established, it's going to be at the 79 square foot mark. So that's why your site would be credited with the 79 square feet for your landscape. You're more than welcome to go out and find a landscape designer, contractor, or a combination of the both. But if you also wanted to work on this yourself, we'd highly encourage that as well. Really getting you involved with your landscape and gets you some sweat equity in it, so to speak. And you can utilize a couple of resources we have here, southbaygreengardens.org, as well as calscape.org. I know both of them have some free templates out there for you to utilize. And you can answer a couple general questions on what you're looking for in your new landscape and what your landscape consists of, maybe size and how much sun it might get versus how much shade it might get in the day. And they'll get you a template that would work for your site. We're also right here is an example of one of those templates. So this is called the Edible Garden from South Bay Green Gardens. Obviously, you can look at any of these plants and scale it up or scale it down based on how much square footage you actually have for your landscape. And I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to this completed project on the left. You can see they've fulfilled their 50% coverage requirement. This is kind of a smaller lawn. They probably could have gone with 1 or 2 plants, or there's a lot of different ways you can do this. They put in a lot of smaller succulents, so they wanted more plants in there. The choice is yours as long as you're reaching that 50% coverage requirement. But we'd always say that having more diverse plants in your landscape is going to be the best bet for you. You can also see that they've laid down the mulch. There's no exposed or bare soil. They've laid in an inner bed here with gravel that they've also covered, so there's no exposed soil. It's kind of a nice anchoring point for your eye to get drawn to when you're looking at this landscape. So from a design perspective and functionality, this is totally compliant with our program. So you're going to submit a plant list. You're going to submit your plan once we've measured your landscape, and you're going to get this thing titled a notice to proceed. That means that you're allotted 90 days with 2 45-day extensions should you need them to start on and complete the project. Once you've completed your project, you're going to submit photos of the completed project to us. Update that plant list if it changed. If it didn't change, you let us know that as well. If it did change, that's totally fine. We just would want to make sure that the 50% coverage requirement of the drought tolerant plants is still being reached. For example, if maybe this top photo, these lavenders weren't available, so you replace them with a rosemary bush. And so the rosemary bush, as long as it would fulfill the same square footage that the lavenders would, that's not an issue, as long as it's still on our qualified list. We understand design or availability may change, and so we can work with you. Additionally, just wanted to draw everyone's attention to some of these photos as I go over some non-qualifying materials that wouldn't qualify towards the rebate. So the first photo, you can see that they've converted part of this landscape per our requirements with the drought tolerant plants, the nice mulch, and it looks great. But then they also left a little bit of lawn in the middle. And so it isn't an all or nothing. There is a 75 square foot minimum for the program. However, for this specific site, we would have scheduled an on-site post inspection, measured that remaining lawn, and let's just say for numbers sake, we measured 1,000 square feet here when we first went out there, and we measured 200 square feet of lawn remaining. This participant would be rebated based on the 800 square feet that they successfully converted, and so we would subtract that 200 square feet. Another aspect of the program is impermeable surfaces. That's another non-qualifying material. So like a concrete or sealed paver system. So this specific site at the bottom, this customer, this participant at the bottom, they've implemented flagstone pavers, and they did not mortar them into the ground or seal them on the bottom with concrete. And so they've put the mulch in between them. They put them on top of mulch. And so at that point, we would consider that permeable. Had they mortared them into the ground, had they just made a concrete pathway here, again, we're going to set up that on-site post inspection, come on site, measure that pathway, subtract it from the total. This was 1,000 square feet and they had a 100 square foot pathway. They're going to get rebated based on the 900 square feet they successfully converted. So artificial turf, impermeable surfaces, leaving lawn in or installing new lawn, leaving soil barren or not covering it with the 2 inches of the mulch or river rocks. All those things would be areas that would be subtracted from the total. Once we've verified the project's completion and that it's reached all of our requirements, there's a couple documents we're going to have you sign over, and from there, once we've received everything, we'll issue your rebate check in 4 to 6 weeks from that date. I just wanted to also show a couple examples of some completed projects. So if you have a parking strip, if you look at that photo on the right, or a street strip of lawn, we would really encourage you to, if you're maybe apprehensive about getting rid of some lawn, this is a great starting point. Typically, these are not used for recreation very much because of how close to the street they are. Typically, people aren't having their children play on these or their dog play on these. And they're very narrow, so overspray and runoff can be really easy to happen. So just to avoid all that, implement the drought tolerant landscape on those parking strips. And those are some really great starting places for anyone. And additionally, the photo on the left, this is probably about 1.5 years, 2 years into a conversion. And so, when you first implement some of these plants, you might see that they're a little bit on the small side. Your yard's looking a little bit open, but fear not. Again, they're going to mature, they're going to get larger, they're going to spread. And obviously you can also see they're going to bloom and flower. So it's going to start to really fill in your landscape nicely. It's going to attract some great pollinators. This mulch on the landscape, not only is it going to help you save 20+% of your water because you're going to have to irrigate 20% less. It's also, adding more great organic materials into your soil, kind of like what Elizabeth was mentioning earlier. And it's also going to assist, and these plants are as well, with filtering the water that goes back into our groundwater table, and is much more likely to keep the water on site during a rain event. So these are all great aspects of the rebate program that all work together to build a really sustainable environment in your landscape. So I mentioned there's a few elements to this program, to the landscape rebate program. So the lawn conversion or pool conversion is a very large element. Another element that maybe you don't have enough lawn to convert, but you have some other areas where you want to improve your water efficiency, would be to do some irrigation upgrades. And so if you have areas outside of your lawn that have overhead or pop-up irrigation, you could convert those areas to an inline drip system. You can see that in the photo right there, this grid layout. Additionally, if you have some lawn that maybe you're not ready to get rid of, we'd at least encourage you to upgrade all of the overhead or pop-up sprinklers into high efficiency models of bodies and nozzles. And you could get a rebate for that from Valley Water as well. One thing I always let people know is, we are all really concerned and conscious about our time or our showers. We're trying to take 5-minute showers, and I'm right there with everyone, and that is really important. But an aspect that a lot of people don't think of is that when they're irrigating their lawn, that pop-up, especially if it's inefficient, is essentially a shower head going for your lawn. And so if you had 10 pop-ups on your front grass and 10 on the back, then they run for 2 minutes. That's 20 showers happening for 2 minutes on your landscape. So that's a good way to look at it and think about it. Additionally, if maybe you had an older, outdated irrigation controller that you set manually, seasonally, monthly, or annually in some cases, you can upgrade to a weather-based irrigation controller or a smart controller. Some people like to refer to them as. So this will take real-time satellite data into account when creating your irrigation scheduler. And they also have the ability to be paired with other tools and other devices such as flow sensors and rain sensors. And so, a rain sensor would give you that on-site fail-safe if it were to ever start raining in your direct landscape and immediately shut off your irrigation system. And then the flow sensor would be paired with your irrigation controller and actually be able to measure each valve's pressure and water flow going through. And so if there was a significant rise or drop in pressure when there shouldn't be, or consistently, even after a watering cycle's ended, that sensor is going to send a message to it's going to communicate that with your controller and send you a message on your phone or computer, or whatever app you have it hooked up to let you know what zone is potentially having abnormal performance and alert you to it. So that's a really great thing to have. And it will prevent leaks. About 12% of our water use in the county is from leaks, and so this can be a great way to mitigate that. And so to full circle right back to our rainwater capture. So we offer rebates for rain barrels, as I mentioned. The city of Santa Clara has its own rain barrel program, so you can reach out to the city for a rebate through them. But you can go for a rain barrel, as we mentioned earlier. You could go with a cistern, which is, I think, a lot of the examples that Elizabeth was showing with those really large capture tanks. So those would be more of a cistern, larger than 200 gallons. We got rebates for that, 50 cents a gallon. For the rain barrel, it'd be $35, up to $35 back per barrel. And then we talked about those rain gardens. Rain gardens are an awesome addition to your landscape. So you can get $1 per square foot up to 300 square feet back for implementing a rain garden. And the rain garden is actually the one only rebate that you can stack on top of your lawn conversion. So if you can see in this far left photo, they've implemented their drought tolerant plants where their lawn was. They have the mulch there. It's looking really great. And then they have this dry creek bed you're looking at, and that's the rain garden. It's diverting that downspout water into the landscape. And again, I mentioned earlier, you're looking at that one site with the mulch around and then the gravel bed in the middle. Again, this is a really great, when all you're seeing is mulch and plants, this is a really great anchoring point for your eye when you're looking at this landscape. So people walking by, if I see rain gardens, typically my eyes are just immediately drawn to them. So it can be a really great addition to your project, especially if maybe you don't have 1,500 square feet of lawn and you want to add another feature to the rebate. This can help you there. So with that, I'm going to close off on the landscape rebate program. And I can definitely open up for any questions. We do have some resources. Again, all the links that I shared in this presentation are going to be sent out to everyone who registered for this. If you do want more information on any of Valley Water's water conservation programs, rebate programs, tips, best practices, just looking for information to be more educated on your water conservation and your water use, watersavings.org, real easy to remember. That's the one-stop shop where you can find everything. Additionally, if you have general conservation questions, if you are maybe participating in the landscape rebate program and have an upload issue or a follow-up question about your project, you can send us an email to the word conservation@valleywater.org. And then during business hours, we have the hotline, 408-630-2554. And you can give us a call, and we have our team ready to speak with you and hopefully answer anything you got. And with that, I will go ahead and open everything up to any questions regarding the landscape rebate program. And you know, just one other, you know, we do have events and trainings that we put on pretty regularly. And we're going to send everyone this in a link, but I think Elizabeth mentioned it, that next Saturday and Sunday, there is a permaculture training on exactly what we just went over. And so we'd love to have everyone, you know, as many people as they can join us for that. And we're going to be sending out that sign up as well at the end of the webinar.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Nick, for sharing that. Looks like we maybe have one question in there. How many rain garden rebates has Valley Water had so far?
I mean, it is, I don't really have a solid number just right off the top of my head on how many rain garden rebates that we've had so far. I'd say maybe 1 out of every 5 to 7 participants who are doing a lawn conversion would probably go ahead and join in for a rain garden. So definitely something that can be utilized and incorporated more. I also will say you don't need to have a lawn conversion to do a rain garden. You can put the rain garden in any part of your landscape that would fit it.
Great.
And I mean, if we do still have some extra time, I'm more than happy to also review the laundry to landscape gray water program with a quick overview as well, if that's all right.
Go for it.
Yeah, great. Oh yeah, Elizabeth, go ahead if you wanted to start share something.
Yeah, so the question about how many rain gardens, I think is really a good opportunity. Most folks don't know that when they're going to convert their lawn into a garden, do the lawn conversion, they don't know that you know, they can get that downspout and get that rain garden as part of it. I think is you know, whoever is designing or building your garden, I think it's good to share amongst yourselves or with other people that is one thing. I mean, we really like to incorporate that in our designs, but I think some people just don't know that is a possibility. That's why. But I mean, the savings are great. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Elizabeth. I definitely, I've worked with the landscape rebate program for about 3 years and or a little bit more than 3 years. And you definitely see some landscape designers utilize that a lot more than others. And so I always try to promote it whenever possible because again, not everyone knows that this is something, and they don't know about it in general. And then they don't know that they can get a rebate for it and it's going to look as good as it does in their landscape. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen for to talk about a little bit about our Gray Water rebate program. All right. Can you all see my screen okay? Is it sharing or is it not sharing the right side?
It looks good.
Looks good. All right. Valley Water offers a, you know, we just talked a little about gray water system, and you know, there may be some common misconceptions with gray water. Many people think of gray water and they think of diverting bathroom water and shower water to be used as toilets or irrigating landscapes maybe. And that is definitely gray water. However, that is really advanced gray water. And so many of you, I guarantee, have put a shower in their bucket, you know, collected water that's dripping from a faucet into a bowl, or maybe when the water in the shower is warming up, you put a bucket or a bowl down there to collect that, and then you go use it to water your plants. Congratulations, you've just participated in using gray water. So it can be as basic as that. It could be as advanced as going through a multi-filtration system and aerator to be reused in a dual plumbing system. There's also a couple levels in between, and so Valley Water is trying to fill that gap. And so we offer a rebate for our laundry to landscape system. So this would be diverting your laundry water after you run a load directly into your landscape. It's not being stored anywhere, and it's not going back into the sewer. You know, Elizabeth mentioned this earlier. You paid for that water, you washed your clothes with it. Why not use it again to irrigate your landscape? So similar to landscape rebate program, you would need to apply before starting on any parts of the project. And so again, we have an online application. I'll be sending that out with the post email here. And it's going to ask for your customer information, site information, current water bill. All those three things are going to be same as landscape rebate program. Same thing with the photos of your landscape. So take photos of where you're planning on implementing that gray water. And you're also going to take a picture of your washing machine area and show the outward facing wall where maybe a pipe would come out from that gray water system. And then a very basic sketch of what your plan is. So I mean, you could see there's a plan here. It's showing, you know, there's 4 mulch basins that the water is getting put into. They are indicating that it's, you know, away from their neighbor's property line, and they're also indicating how far the system traveling. It's within 30 feet, and that, you know, they're going to be irrigating perennial flowers, trees, and shrubs, which are all great candidates for gray water. We wouldn't want to use this laundry landscape system to water irrigate our root vegetables, for example. But for shrubs, trees, perennial flowers, those can all be really great candidates for gray water use. And in fact, drought tolerant plants like this can also be really great candidates to be irrigating with laundry water. So the pre-inspection is all done virtually when you submit all those items to us. And the total rebate is between $200 and $400. So if you're in a cost sharing area with us, you could get up to $400 back. If you're just in a standard rate service area with us, then the base rebate is $200. And we found that the $200 pays for the parts to install it. It would not cover labor or installation typically, but if you're a DIYer, this is definitely a great project for you to do. If you're not a DIYer, I'd still encourage you to reach out to a professional such as Smart Yards to see if it's maybe a good candidate for your landscape. So again, gray water is reused from, it technically can be from bathroom sinks, showers and bathtubs, or again, the washing machine. So unfortunately, coming from your toilet, not going to be able to reuse it. And then anything that goes into the sink drain of your kitchen sink, once it goes through that drain, it's considered black water at that point as well, due to some food contaminants and oils. And we're rolling right into that now. So it's not from kitchens or dishwashers, toilets. We don't store gray water. Again, what Elizabeth said is, slow it, sink it, spread it. That's the goal here with this. We're not storing it in a container. And then again, you could reuse gray water for a lot of different aspects. The one that Valley Water would rebate for, again, is this the laundry to landscape system, where you're going to be directly diverting that water into your landscape. And you can see this second photo to the left has that purple pipe. For everyone, just to know on the webinar, purple pipe is the universal color for recycled water, gray water. And so if you ever are very thirsty around a pipe that is purple, do not drink it. Right next to this purple pipe, there's a 3-way valve. So that would allow you to either divert the water into your landscape to, you can see this photo to the right of the valve photo. That's got a lot of mulch. It's got some shrubs, it's got some nice trees, and these are all great candidates to be irrigated with gray water. And you can see that yellow lever for the 3-way valve. If you're running a normal load of laundry with a plant-based and safer choice certified detergent, then it's no issue sending it to your landscape. Let's say you needed to clean some clothes with bleach. You would turn this yellow valve, and just like what was happening before, every time you ran a load of laundry, that load with bleach would just go into your sewer, and there's no issues going to the landscape. And then there's obviously, again, really advanced types of gray water systems that you can see here. And then there's this illustration on top that is like a perfect example of what we are trying to do here at Valley Water with the laundry to landscape gray water rebate. It's going straight out of that outward facing wall or crawl space where your laundry machine is. This is a black piece on top over here, on top of the PVC pipe, is a anti-siphon air valve to ensure that the water, there's no possibility of it backing up and going into your laundry machine. And then all the water is going into these basins that have mulch in them. That's the brown part of the illustration right there, or gold. And so none of the water is ever pooling, surfacing. It's all watering the plants at the root system. Again, slow it, sink it, or spread it, and then sink it. So again, here's another illustration of what a total system would look like, going out of the house and then going into those mulch basins throughout the landscape to irrigate. Some more examples of, again, really basic system setups. I mentioned that the rebate is either $200 or $400, depending on what your service area is. If you were to install it yourself, again, the parts are going to cost approximately $200, and your time, of course. But if you were to hire a landscaper, or my apologies, if you were to hire a gray water installer, you're looking at between $1,500 and $5,000 total for that cost of doing the job with the labor. But we will say that again, you've paid for this water to wash your laundry machine, and now, or to wash your clothes in your washing machine, and now why not reuse it on your landscape? If you already paid for it, instead of turning your irrigation system on or turning your hose on, we kind of went over that plants don't need clean treated drinking water, and rainwater works just fine for them. And the same thing on the gray water. Again, there are some maybe behavioral changes you might need to make. For example, being very cognizant of, if you're going to run a load of bleach, that you're going to send it to the sewer, like it's illustrated here. But also maybe having to change what detergent you're using, so that it is a liquid-based detergent, and that is plant friendly, and a really great way to ensure that is to look for the EPA Safer Choice seal when you're buying your detergents. I buy a EPA Safer Choice seal detergent, and I've never had any issues either with my clothes smelling bad or anything like that, and also with availability. They're very accessible and available. Every big box store or retailer will have that as an option. So again, you're going to be basing the system on how much water that you think you're potentially going to be producing, and how large the plant that you're going to be irrigating potentially is. So maybe for trees, you want to dig out a larger basin, like you can see in this photo I'm pointing to, or for a smaller shrub, maybe a more rounded, smaller mulch basin. So. And I know we are running very close to time here, so I don't want to go over, but if you are interested in our landscape rebate program, gray water laundry to landscape program, we really encourage you to reach out to us. Again, we're going to send you all the resources to get a hold of us that you would need. And then we really encourage you to reach out and to get these projects started, or at least hear us out on what changes you could potentially make to your landscape. With that, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Ava, because I believe we have some closing slides.
We do. I'm going to share my screen again. Thank you so much for sharing all that information. I hope that's helpful to the audience and that some people will take up those rebates. Let's see. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Just need to... Okay. So we have another webinar upcoming on June 1st from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And this is all about certain plants. Project Super Plants is a youth group out of the Bay Area, and they're going to be talking about which plants are low water use and have higher capacity for storing carbon. So check that out. You can sign up at dailyax.org/upcoming events. And with that said, I just want to also say a big thanks to our sponsors who make this possible, and a thanks to Valley Water for having us today. And thank you to Elizabeth for that amazing presentation. I sure learned a lot and felt really inspired to go make some rain gardens on my own landscape. And I'd love to also do a rain tank. So thank you again. Again, everyone will get a follow-up email with a recording of this presentation, so you can share this with friends and family, and we'll also attach a bunch of different resources, ones that Elizabeth has stated, and then also ones pertaining to Valley Water Rebates. So big thank you to you all. My name is Ava, and you can reach out to me at ava@dailyax.org, or you can reach me at the office by calling that number on the screen if you have any questions about what we do, or about rain tanks or rain gardens, or about Valley Water. Feel free to reach out. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.